This is the IBJ podcast for the week of January 26th, 2026, brought to you by Taft. I'm Lesley Weidenbener, editor of IBJ, in this week for Mason King. It has been a week since Indiana University won the College Football National Championship, and Hoosier fans are still celebrating. On the podcast this week, we're going to talk with two people with different perspectives on the game between IU and the University of Miami at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. First up will be Nate Feltman, the owner and publisher of IBJ Media. He's an IU graduate with 3 degrees, in fact, and very active with the university. He went to the Rose Bowl in California, the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, and the title game in Miami. Nate tells us about those experiences and explains why he decided that IBJ should send a reporter to Miami. And then I'll talk with that reporter, Dave Lindquist, about his experiences at the game. Dave is not an IU grad, and he has not been to IU football games, but he has covered the hoopla surrounding many of the biggest sporting events that have taken place in Indianapolis. So it was fun to get his perspective. Here are my conversations with Nate Feltman and Dave Lindquist. Nate, thank you for joining us to give us your perspective on the Indiana University Hoosiers championship. Well, game, adventure, the whole thing. You were in Miami.
I was in Miami, but I was also at the Rose Bowl. I also went to Atlanta, so I've witnessed the whole championship run. It's been absolutely surreal and unreal, but amazing in so many different ways.
Remind everybody what your connections are to IU.
Oh, there are many. So going back over 20 years ago, I started serving in an alumni capacity for the McKinney Law School Alumni Association, but then moved into the Board of Managers and ultimately chair of the National Alumni Association. And currently I sit on the foundation board and a number of schools, different boards. I'm also involved with IU Indianapolis. I've been involved in the Hamilton Luger School. So it's been many different ways I've volunteered in lots of different capacities.
And you have 2 degrees from IU.
I have 3 degrees.
3 degrees from IU, and they are?
I have a business degree. I have a BA from the College of Arts and Sciences, and I have a law degree from McKinney.
And in all of those years that you went to IU, that you have been involved with IU, did you ever think something like this could happen in the football program?
Not a chance. Not in football. I got excited when they had a few good years, or they made it to a bowl, or they were competitive, against some of the good teams. But as everybody knows, beating Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State has been a very difficult challenge and doesn't happen very often. And I can remember 1987, because it was a year before I went down to IU, when they beat Ohio State and Michigan in the same year. But it's been a long struggle in football, and so this was unimaginable, I think, for all Hoosiers.
You wrote a column this week for IBJ that actually talked about this run and how Pam Whitten should get some of the credit.
Absolutely.
The IU president. Tell us about that.
Well, it's clear to me, because I have a close association with the university, that the building blocks for what we saw this year didn't happen 2 years ago. It wasn't just 2 years ago hiring Coach Cignetti. Of course, that was an instrumental piece. It doesn't happen without hiring Coach Cignetti. But the building blocks to get to that point occurred early on in Pam Whitten's tenure, which began just over 5 years ago. And she came in, and I have a quote in my column that is that she met with Scott Dolson, and she said to Scott, "We can't treat football at Indiana University like it's an intramural sport. We got to get serious about it." And she began to allocate the resources to allow football to ultimately prosper, meaning she dedicated resources for the upgrades to the Memorial Stadium, to the training facilities for the football players. She began to prioritize hiring staff within the athletic department that understood how to prosper in this new portal and NIL world. And she was all in on football and saw when she was served as provost for University of Georgia, which of course is great and has been good at football for a long time. She saw what a prospering, successful football team can do to uplift other aspects of the university, including the student experience, which she's really focused on. So without that emphasis and belief that football can succeed. And she was serious about it. And she has this saying that if we're going to be in it, we're going to be in it to win. And that includes academics, of course, but she meant it across the university in sports as well. If we're going to be playing football, then let's do it at a championship level.
Why do you think that's important? I think it would be easy for some people to say, of all the places to put emphasis, why put so much emphasis or resources into the football team?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. But one is that revenue for athletic departments, for university athletic departments, is now driven vast majority, like 75 to 80% of revenue of the athletic department comes from the football program. It's because the popularity of football in America, the TV contracts for, Big Ten football are off the charts. And if you compare it to basketball, it's certainly the case. The revenue for people in the stands is much higher. It's popular in America today and among young people. So revenue is certainly one of the reasons, and there are other reasons too. But that's the starting point. If you want to have successful teams in girls basketball, and you want to in softball and baseball, the revenue is being for those sports is actually being driven by the football program. And if you want to be successful in those other areas, then you've got to be successful at football too.
Do you think the success of this football team will lead to interest in other areas too, though? Interest from donors, interest in for students applying?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one only has to look at what happened when Butler made it twice to the final game of March Madness in the Final Fours to understand what it can do from an applications for interest. Now, Pam Whitten likes to point out that applications were going up, and they've been up before this run 60% since, she started 5 years ago. But there is no doubt that Alabama and, SEC schools in general have seen, increased interest among, students applying because of the football program. I think it's kidding ourselves to say that, that doesn't matter and kids' choices. I have a son who's a senior, and I can tell you it matters. A senior in high school who's making decisions. He's got admitted to a number of colleges now, and I can tell you it makes a difference for him. It absolutely makes a difference, and it will for others too, just because it goes to that student experience. I mean, kids want an experience. Of course, they want an education, but as we all know, going to college is also an experience, and part of that experience is rooting for your team and seeing it do well, and so it's going to matter.
I actually wanted to talk to you mostly because we're going to be talking to Dave Lindquist about his experience going to the final game as a reporter.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about going as a fan. What was your experience like?
I mean, it was just unbelievable. Of course, IU put together a lot of events around the game, so it's an opportunity to see. I mean, I saw people that I haven't seen in years. I mean, lots of years, fraternity brothers, people through IU, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to engage around something we all care about. We care about a lot, right? So that's fantastic. Each game has been different. I mean, IU, of course, blew out its first two opponents in the first two playoff games. And that was nice as a fan because you could relax a little bit and just experience, all the surroundings and the band. And in Atlanta, I sat right next to the band, which was awesome. Like, just to hear the fight song again and again. But Miami obviously was a lot different because we were so, you get to that point, you are so invested and you are so like, oh my gosh, the story will be complete and be the miracle, as good as a miracle on ice. If we win it. If we don't win it, it's going to still be an incredible season, but winning it completes the story, makes the movie that surely is going to be made, right? So that last I'd say 5-6 minutes of the game was really intense. I remember texting you, Lesley,
Yep.
to tell you how nervous I was. And those last few minutes were incredible. And when they intercepted the ball, with a minute or so to go in the game, that place erupted, and we were all in pandemonium there. My son and I had friends around me that are serving with me in different capacities at IU, and just amazing. I mean, just exhilarating. Yeah. Now I'm really tired from all that exhilaration.
Absolutely. I can still hear it in your voice a little bit.
Absolutely, from yelling.
So you started, obviously, like so many people, you went to the Rose Bowl. Did you expect the Rose Bowl to be so dominated by IU fans?
No, I didn't. Now, I mean, it was, we knew IU fans were going to travel, and they were hungry. I mean, hungry to do well, whether it's basketball or football, but to do well. It's, of course, this year in football. But it was amazing. I thought Alabama fans, because they've been in and around the playoffs and of course, a very high caliber championship team for so many years, that they would travel. But it was easily 80-20, 80 IU fans. And then, you're playing Oregon for the second time in Atlanta, and you think, well, gosh, the Oregon fans, I mean, they're going to travel. This is their opportunity to win a national championship, beat Indiana, have revenge over the loss that they occurred early in the year. And that was unbelievable to see a stadium that was 95% Indiana fans. You could barely see any green, the Oregon greens.
I was really surprised by that, because Oregon, I thought, had a good shot. I mean, that was the game that I was worried about.
Yeah.
And I'm no expert by any means, but I just think it's always hard to beat a good team twice in a season.
That's what everybody kept saying again. And I didn't feel
I
thought we were going to beat Oregon. I felt really good, only because I felt like we kept getting better and better and better as the season wore on. And so I was less concerned. Of course, that's what the coach said, and that's what a lot of people said. It's harder a second time, but to beat a team twice. But
it did not turn out to be hard.
I felt pretty confident that actually it might even be helpful that we were playing the same team twice. So, given how well we were playing. So, no, what it is astonishing, though, is just even in Miami, seeing how Hoosier fans outnumbered Hurricane fans is just an awesome thing to see. I mean, it's widely known now that IU has the largest living alumni base in the country, but they show up and travel. And of course, the team and coach kept saying, that as well. Like, it's just amazing. Like, it feels like we're playing home game after home game. That's an incredible thing for university.
Do you have any one or two experiences from your trips across, to all of these trips that stand out to you?
Well, I've been very fortunate that I had the ability to stay at the team hotel each time. And so at the Rose Bowl, at each case, you get to see the players walking around. You see them interacting with their families. Sometimes you see Coach Signetti. He's on a mission, so he doesn't stop and interact. But some of the players will, if you go up and ask nicely. My son wanted to get a picture with Fernando Mendoza, and he was in the lobby, just hanging out in the lobby, talking to somebody. And person after person went up and asked, "Can I get a picture with you?" And my son asked if he could get a picture with them, which we did. That was special. And everything you hear about Fernando is, of course, incredibly positive. The guy is just a great guy, and he certainly was just that when my son asked him. So that stands out. And then in Miami, at 1:30 in the morning, the team finally gets back to the team hotel, and some of the players come out. And so Aiden Fisher, my son got a picture with Aiden Fisher, and Fernando ran out briefly and got to just get a glimpse of him. But, it's really neat when you see the players interacting and have an opportunity to see these guys up close. And I kept saying, I think we saw D'Angelo Pons every time. And we'd get on the elevator, and the players would get on the elevator because they're going to their team meetings, and we're going down to go wherever we're going. And each time everybody's like, that was D'Angelo Pons. He's a really little guy. How does he pack the punch that he has? And he's a very, he's not a big guy.
Right.
But obviously incredible athlete, and the punch that he packs with his size is unbelievable. But when you see him, you're like, he just looks like a normal guy. You wouldn't know that he's a star football player, defensive player for IU. So yeah, those interactions and those, being nearby and seeing, and then just being with the fans, themselves, and seeing good friends that I serve with IU, in each case, has been just a lot of fun.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about was your decision to send a reporter to Miami. IBJ covers the business of sports. We do have sports columnists, but we don't cover games. And we haven't done a lot of this kind of traveling before, but you called me the weekend before and said, I think we should send somebody. What were you thinking? Why did you want to do that?
I just felt like we had the opportunity to cover the biggest story in sports, one of the biggest stories ever in sports. I mean, the turnaround at Indiana University. No, everybody's heard the stat that losing his program until Coach Signetti, historically, losing his football program, and the turnaround that's happened over the last 2 years, and an undefeated season. I mean, we know as Indiana University fans that the last time there was an undefeated season in a major sport was 1976 with Bobby Knight's team. And it just felt historical in so many ways, and magical, and of course it turned out to be just that. And I didn't want us to miss it. I wanted someone there who is really, getting great interactions and understanding what's exactly happening, and having a historical account of at IBJ, and really IBJ, playing a big part in something that I think is incredibly special, that just doesn't come around very often. So
yeah, and you asked me what I thought, and my thought was that because the fans are traveling so well, that there were so many people who are in our coverage area. So many people who are our readers were there.
Yeah,
so.
And I got feedback when I was down there that they were seeing our stories, they're reading our stories while they were there. I mean, I think a lot of fans are like me, with an insatiable appetite for what is going on with IU football in this program and this championship run. And so having somebody there that was actually producing a great amount and really great content, Dave Lindquist, was awesome, really awesome. I got feedback a lot from people I run into. I just talked to your IBJ reporter, so it was noticeable among those that were there as well.
Nate, thanks so much for telling us about your experiences. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lesley.
Thanks to IBJ owner and publisher Nate Feltman. We're going to take a break now to hear from our sponsor, and then return with reporter Dave Lindquist.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
This IBJ podcast is brought to you by Indie Grills, Indianapolis's premier builder of outdoor living spaces. They design and build custom patios, fireplaces, and outdoor kitchens made for real life, from quiet family nights to hosting the whole neighborhood. Winter's the perfect time to start planning your dream outdoor space, because Indie Grill's spring schedule is already filling up. So if you're ready to elevate your outdoor space, now's the time to get in line. Start designing your dream backyard. Visit IndieGrills.com or stop by their state-of-the-art showroom at the Zionsville-Lebanon border on State Road 32.
We're back on the IBJ podcast talking about the IU National Championship. Next up, we have my conversation with IBJ reporter Dave Lindquist, who went to Miami not to write about the game itself, but the fans, the parties, and more. Here's that conversation. Dave, welcome back to the IBJ podcast.
Thank you.
You are a few days back from Miami, where IBJ sent you to cover the college football playoff national championship, something that we actually had not necessarily planned to do, but we did at the last minute. What was your reaction to hearing that you were going to be headed down?
I could not believe I received that phone call from you. and it was so surprising that I had to like kind of get my bearings and make sure that everything on the home front would be okay if I did make such a trip, and it worked out great. I'm really grateful that I had the chance.
I should mention that I asked you if you wanted to go. I did not order you to go. Tell me what your approach was heading down to the game.
So the die was cast for me to become a journalist when I was 10 years old, and my parents bought a subscription to Sports Illustrated for me. And I thought I
Nice.
was going to be a sports writer, and that was the path I was on until, through my sophomore year of college. I went to Eastern Illinois University, one of the directional schools of Illinois. I did not go to Indiana University. Um, so just having said that, IBJ Media did not send me as a sports reporter, but I have to say that this trip in the sports context uh, kind of let me do some of the things in that sports wish that I had from being a kid. But what I viewed my mission in Miami as reporting on IU fans. There were many IU fans in Miami, and also just how this kind of exposure affects the university, and just the historic context of this. Even if IU football were to win 3 consecutive national championships, none of those runs, I believe, would be like this one. I mean, just last year, even making the college football playoffs was once in a lifetime. And that's something that Coach Signetti said on the morning after press conference is, last year's team was very special. But this one, to do the whole thing, take on all comers, was something else. And I have to say, one of the least favorite things that a journalist has to do is person on the street interviews, because
True.
I can put myself in the other person's position pretty easily and think, I don't really want to be accosted by this stranger who wants to ask me questions. But this situation in Miami was 180 degrees from that because everywhere you looked, it was very easy to identify IU fans by what they were wearing and their upbeat, jubilant attitude, and everybody wanted to talk, and I really felt fortunate to get a lot of interesting stories beyond just, I mean, person on the street interviews. If everyone just says kind of the same bland talking points over and over again, that kind of runs its course pretty fast. But it was fun to talk to so many people with so many different perspectives.
Tell us when you went down there, where you stayed. Give us a scene setter of what your situation was.
This was my first trip to Miami, and I was knocked out by just a impressive series of like skyscraper hotels right downtown in Miami. It was just like one after another, after another, after another. And again, thanks to IBJ Media, I was in a really nice one, a Kimpton hotel that was directly across the street from the JW Marriott property that served as the media hotel for the game. And one of the perspectives I appreciated was covering this as a visitor to Miami, as opposed to covering the 2022 college football playoff championship in Indianapolis, or the NBA All-Star game in 2024, or past Final Fours and the one coming up in the spring. Because when you're an Indianapolis resident, as the media person, you know, you're not thinking about, oh, my meals have to be here or there. I'm at home. I can bounce in and out. My travel's pretty easy. But I will say that the way that the media hotel was structured, there's a hospitality room where you can get meals. There's a working room where you can work. There's a free bus shuttle to the game and back. But again, a difference between Miami when it hosts this thing and when Indianapolis hosts its event is how centralized and nice and close things are in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and that's a
So-
key point because the folks in Indianapolis are always telling us what a differentiator it is that things are so close to one another in Indianapolis. So can you compare and contrast Indianapolis
Yes.
with Miami?
Okay, so if we think of the JW Marriott Hotel in Miami as the center point, to go to the Playoff Fan Central, fan festival, it is, or this past weekend, it was on Miami Beach, which is not downtown. It's to the east. You cross some water. It's really nice over there. It's near South Beach and all the really fancy mansions and Art Deco stuff. So that's a ways away. And then the actual stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, is like 18 miles north of this downtown area. So in Indianapolis, the JW Marriott, which is often the media headquarters, is connected via skywalkways to the Indiana Convention Center, which hosts the Playoff Fan Central event. And in turn, the Indiana Convention Center is directly connected via a subterranean walkway to Lucas Oil Stadium. So you really can't beat that proximity.
Of course, that's more important in Indianapolis, especially in the winter because of the weather. But how did you feel like, did fans talk about that at all? Did it seem to be any kind of a detriment to people doing what they wanted to do as part of this weekend?
Let me just back up, and you mentioned the weather. I will say on
Yeah.
Monday night, my press seat was in the open air part of the stadium, and I wore a winter hat and a jacket. It was kind of breezy up there, so it wasn't super tropical.
It wasn't
for the
balmy.
game. Right? But during the day, the sunlight is really nice. I'll say that. You asked about fans feeling disconnected at all?
Yeah.
Well, I would say so. The Miami Beach Convention Center is a very big building, and I walked, 75% around with it. I walked about 75% around it with about a dozen IU fans, and none of us knew where the door was. But that was a very minor inconvenience. And in terms of the stadium, on Monday morning, I heard a lot of people talking about like how soon should we go because security was very tight on that day. I think I know my bag. I had to leave it somewhere where a K9 team inspected it. In terms of hassles, I think it was that kind of thing.
Tell me more about the kinds of things that you saw, what were fans doing? How were they enjoying this experience?
So the night before the game on Sunday evening, Indiana University, in conjunction with the IU Alumni Association, hosted a pretty big rally right along the waterfront downtown at a park. It was called the Big Red Warm Up, which I believe similar events were held along the way at the different bowl games. But that was like 4,000 IU fans, a couple of musical acts with Indiana ties and the Marching 100. And the vibes were strong at that event. I know like merch is important to these fans. Yeah, that kind of goes with the territory. Like people are looking for, you know, the latest T-shirt, the T-shirt that says, the things about the game that's coming up right next.
Oh yeah, I always want in on the merch.
Some people were looking for pins. Like enamel pins are a big part of this culture. And yeah, I will say that a very good-natured, large contingency of IU fans were present. The band also played at that. The Marching Hundred, I think I mentioned to you before we started, I saw the Marching Hundred perform 4 times in my short time in Miami. So I knew their set list pretty well by game time. I caught them at playoff fan cell during a pep rally on Sunday afternoon, then at the Big Red warm-up that evening, and then on Monday afternoon, they did a pep rally outside Hard Rock Stadium, and then they played during the game.
They're a great band, I think.
I'm pretty tickled that kind of the old-timey collegiate stuff
Yes.
is very much part of what they do. And I think, as I already mentioned, I'm not an IU alum. I've never attended a game at Memorial Stadium. But it's cool. Like some of the things they do, they have a version of the old surf song Wipeout where they incorporate Indiana. They play like some old big band swing stuff, and it was impressive.
So tell me about the fans you encountered. We tend to think of these games as being full of people who are big time IU supporters. When we talked to Nate earlier in this podcast, Nate Feltman, our owner, and he, of course, is very involved in IU, serves on a lot of boards, etc., very involved in IU alumni activities. So we know there are a lot of people like that. But did you find that there are also a lot of kind of regular fans who are really splurging to go to an event like this?
I would say that's the case. Like just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about the graduate from like 2007 who's now a funeral home director in a small town in Indiana who had his 12-year-old son with him, and they had attended all the bowl games. There's a couple from Fort Wayne who also had attended them all. One of my favorite interviews was right after I got downtown, and I talked to a gentleman named Pat Corsi, who's owned a cabinetry company in Indianapolis for many decades. And he was telling me when he was a student at IU and Memorial Stadium opened in the fall of 1960, he was friends with some of the band members of the Marching Hundred. And he wasn't in the band, but everybody was excited, and they let him be like a flag carrier at that opening game. And Mr. Corsi said, so I graduated and I became a season ticket holder for a few years. And then a guy named Bob Knight arrived in Bloomington, and everybody was basketball crazy. And he purchased season tickets for basketball, which he still has. I think he's 84 years old, and he told me he hadn't been inside Memorial Stadium for a football game in more than 40 years, and this game on Monday night was the first one he's attended this year. So I think his story is kind of indicative of what this means, how historic it was, how the loyalty to IU football kind of has come and gone over the years. But IU fans were certainly excited about this one.
One of the interesting things about these bowl games has been how big the IU crowd was. At the Rose Bowl, it was, a big majority of the crowd. And then at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, IU fans were like more than 90% of the crowd there. And of course, then you go to Miami, you're playing at the University of Miami's home stadium, you're in Miami, and yet it sounds like IU had a majority of tickets, not by the margins, of course, in other places, but still had a very big presence. Was that your perception as well?
Yes, I would say the split was probably 65-35 IU.
That's pretty amazing.
My seats were in the end with all the Miami fans, where the Miami fans were the most prevalent.
And it
And they
was
were
a
outnumbered,
press
but
seat, right? Was there a little press area there?
yes, they're like two slivers of the upper deck where the seating is dedicated to media members. So you're in a seat and there's a table in front of you, so you can. It's like a workstation. And to our left, in the end zone, were the Miami fans, and they were outnumbered overall, but they were very loud, and they had plenty to cheer for in that game.
Yeah, it was a good game.
So my strategy for talking to IU fans during the game had to be had to be split. Like during the first half, I bounced out to the concourse and talked to an IU mother and her son, who's a sophomore, who were kind of embedded among Miami fans. And they said it was pretty chill, wasn't too bad. And then once the game got into the second half, I thought, okay, now I need to go down to the other end of the field where the IU fans are really strong and see who I could talk to on the concourse down there. And when Fernando scored that fourth quarter, fourth down touchdown, where he kind of pinballed into the end zone and he made the leap that's now the famous photograph.
Absolutely.
I was out on the concourse and that play was on a television. And when that happened, it was just this really unusual moment where IU fans just ran toward each other and started hugging. And these were people who did not know each other. It was just like a pure celebratory moment. Thankfully, my press pass allowed me to go down to the field level at the end of the game.
Amazing.
And so once I got down there on the sideline with about a minute and a half left, I started looking for, okay, who down close with good seats, who are IU fans, would maybe be a good interview. And I spied this gentleman who had like two homemade signs. One was a checklist of all the things that the team had accomplished. The headline was Indiana Hoosiers, American Dream. And so it had these line items of number one, Big Ten champs, Rose Bowl champs, Peach Bowl champs. The last line on his sign was college football playoff champions. And there was like a little circle there, but no check through it. And then he had a second sign that was like IU champions, had a Miami logo on one side and IU logo on the other, and two lines for the final score. And if you remember the game, Miami had the ball and could have easily won that game. The clock had not determined the end yet. And with about a minute left, this gentleman, I saw him, he got his marker and he marked the one line about they were the champions on the one side, and on the other side he put in the score 27-21. And there were some Miami fans right next to him who like crossed their arms in an X and were telling him, you hexed them, that was a horrible move. But the Hoosiers hung on, and I was able to grab him for a quick interview after the game.
Yeah, hit that photo you shot of that guy with that sign is one of my favorite photos that you sent from Miami. That's such a great story and such a great moment, because I was watching on TV and nothing at all felt sure about that, about winning at that moment. So that was crazy.
So then the confetti flies everywhere and they roll the stage out, and the mass of people start moving down toward the other end zone where the stage is going to be. And at that point, I'm just walking among other media members, family members, and players. It was all just a big jumble on the field. And I look up, and there is Fernando embracing his dad right after the game.
That Mendoza photo is also one of my favorite photos that you sent. Both of those photos, the one of the guy with the sign, the one of Fernando with his dad, they are actually in a photo spread that we did in this week's issue of IBJ. And then you can also go to ibj.com to see those photos. I know there are tons of photos out there, but those are truly two of my favorites. So, what was it like being down there on the field as all of this celebration was going on?
Well, that was very kind of you to say that. I'm not a photographer, but I've worked with lots of photographers through the years, and I try to take some of the tips I've gleaned from them, even when I'm just with a phone camera. So the funniest thing from my trip happened shortly after that. Like, regrettably, whatever coach and the players were saying on that stage, the audio is not made for the people on the field. That's for television.
It's for television for sure.
And all of that was pretty garbled. So I started walking back to where I could get back to my press area. And I ran into Nico, the place kicker. He was just standing with another teammate on the sidelines, kind of soaking it all in. So I said, I'm going to talk to this guy. What's interesting about Nico is he wears number 15, which is also Fernando's number. And that's allowed because if you're a college football player and another person on your team has your number, as long as you're not on the field at the same time, you guys can have the same numbers. So because there are more than 100 scholarship roles on the team, I guess you only have so many two-digit numbers. And I think that maybe I hope for Nico that he's pocketed an NIL dollar or two from people who thought they were buying Fernando jerseys.
That's
but they bought
fantastic.
his instead. So I chatted with him for a second, and then I started walking back toward the tunnel, like I said. And I see some police officers in a group, a little scrum, walking kind of with me. And I look, I'm like, oh, there's Coach Signetti. So I get my phone out, and my phone is trained on Coach Signetti, and I'm walking, and then I say, oh, they're holding up, they're stopping. And at this point, I am squarely behind the Big Ten television desk that's on the field, and the four gentlemen in the suits, and I'm there with my camera, and I look, and I do a quick exit stage right after giving a big deer in the headlights look, which is now preserved on YouTube because this whole thing is on there. It's a video called Coach Signetti Crashes the Big Ten Network's post-game show.
I'm definitely going to put a link to that in the show notes.
But yeah, I didn't expect to be on TV.
That's fantastic. You took a great photo of that as well, of him on the set there.
Yeah, once I got on the right side, I took a photo of that.
Well, what a great experience. And then
I agree.
You had to come back the next day. How were you feeling? Were you exhausted? Were you hoarse? What was going on?
I made it. I probably hit my bed at like 2 a.m. on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew on the schedule that there was something called the Champions, news conference across the street at the Media Hotel at 9 a.m. So I bounced over to that. If Miami had won, would I have attended that? Probably not. But the adrenaline was still riding pretty high.
Did you fly back with a lot of IU fans?
Definitely. Both my flight to and from Miami were special direct flights that I think were scheduled because of this event, and it was like 240 IU fans both ways. And okay, here's the thing about Tuesday. As Tuesday unfolded, I'm around plenty of fans, but I had not heard the chant that I had heard, day after day after day, that Hoosier.
Uh-huh.
I'm not an IU alum. I just botched that. I think it's Hoosiers. Is it three?
Yeah, it's 3 Who's and a Hoosier. And I'm not an IU fan either. So I'm not an IU grad either. So that was all. I also feel a little bit like an imposter if I do it.
So I had not heard that on Tuesday, but I heard it so many times all the other days. So we land in Indianapolis on Tuesday evening, and I walk out the jetway, and staff members from Delta were welcoming, people coming off this plane, and they were doing that chant.
That's great. What a fun thing. Well, it sounds like it was a good all-around trip, and then you got thrown immediately back into regular work. But do you think overall this was a good move to go for IBJ to go?
100%. Lots of sports reporting was done by Indianapolis outlets, but I don't think there was a lot of the types of things that I wrote about elsewhere.
I heard a lot of great things from people about your coverage. So, Dave, thank you so much for going. Thank you to your family for being okay with you going, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for sending me.
Thanks again to Dave Lindquist and Nate Feltman for those perspectives on the national championship game. And check out all of our coverage of the IU game and so much more at IBJ.com. And come back next week for another episode of the IBJ podcast. Host Mason King will be back next week.